So I heard you just watched the movie Black Panther again.
Yes, I did. So I was freshly 11 years old when it was released in 2018. And to be honest, I was not thinking about the depth that Black Panther, was trying to convey and, what it did for things in terms of like representation, especially. But it was always one of my favorite Marvel movies. I was just an 11-year-old thinking, oh, look at this, purple guy in a glowing suit with claws who beats up the bad guys. That's so cool. But looking back on it now on my second rewatch, it's so much more than just a cool movie, to actively divert stereotypes of, old Hollywood and really does justice, I think, for representing the, African culture especially.
So for those who haven't seen it, can you give us the rundown?
So, yeah, that's a good question. It was directed by Ryan Coogler in 2018, and it follows the story of this new king in a futuristic society that has been isolated from the rest of the world, and this society is called Wakanda. Let's just say, though, that this new king, T'Challa, has a pretty rough time into becoming the ruler. And he feels a lot of guilt with himself because he feels that he let his father die, and he really wants to honor, his father's legacy. And so as he's navigating, political challenges across the movie, probably the biggest, most important plot point here is that he faces a challenge against a long-lost cousin, Eric Killmonger. And his whole shtick is basically that in order for Wakanda to succeed as a nation, Wakanda has to give their technology, their vibranium, out to all of the oppressed people that the world has done negative things towards. And so with newly King T'Challa, obviously this doesn't fly. And so a big point of the movie is just them fighting for the rights to become king.
Are there some stereotypes mixed in there to unpack?
Well, historically, Hollywood has stereotyped black individuals as early as the 20th century, really. What this film does so well is it's basically a slap in the face to those old stereotypes of the past. Every single major character in the film has had so much depth and ties to a cultural identity that I think feels so real and authentic. And I think that's really one of the best strong suits of the movie. It's just the representation.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, also, another cool thing is that, Wakanda is like this advanced, futuristic society, and oftentimes, in media, we show Africa, the continent, as a bunch of third world countries inside of this huge place. And I think it's really ironic that in this movie, it's the complete opposite. Wakanda is in the position to help others and support the rest of the world, right? And in this case, they are literally the most advanced society in the world. It's a complete 180 degrees from how it's shown in the media.
Why is that important to us to know?
Absolutely, yeah. So breaking away from those stereotypes is so important because it represents actors of color in more authentic ways than I think Hollywood has ever been able to do in the past. Dr. Yuen captures this perfectly in her 2017 book, Real Inequality: Hollywood Actors and Racism. In the introduction, she quotes from actor David Oyelowo, who says, quote, "We have been slaves, we have been domestic servants, we have been criminals, but we have also been leaders, we have been kings, and we have been those who have changed the world."
Is there anything else you found interesting about the film?
Absolutely. I also found it also ironic that one of the tinier villains, Claw, directly told King T'Challa to his face that Wakandans were nothing more than savages. And I find this really interesting because the movie has this like self-aware moment where stereotyping is suddenly, of the past, Hollywood has suddenly come up to haunt the current king in his universe. And I think how he navigates that kind of says everything about the movie. He knows the world is watching, and he enters Wakanda into the world stage with kindness and allyship. And, if we look and compare that to probably someone like Eric Killmonger, he probably would have perpetuated that savage stereotype. So it's another representation of them diverting away and beating the stereotypes of old Hollywood.
Thank you for sharing your perspective on this topic.
Yeah, of course.